It seems ShiftUp has decided to change the schedule when they post the character kits now, suddenly, and it's 2 a.m. and we have finally Diesel's Winter Sweets kit. So let's talk a little bit about this. Before we go, really important, I think we're at the point in Nika where the first year and a half or so, ShiftUp clearly didn't have a fucking idea about balancing their game on what they wanted, and as time went by, they have found a good place for most characters, which is being niche and being good and usable for raids, but for the majority of the player base, you can skip all characters, but pilgrims and collaborations, and you're good. And collaborations because they are limited, because they are the same thing, right, for raids. So let's talk a little bit about Diesel Winter Sweets, what's going on with her kids, like small peer analysis just after reading for 30 minutes, chatting with the boys what's going on, and if it's worth pulling a copy or completely a skip. Before we start, hello degenerates, welcome back to Waifus. I'm Sefhi, your favorite gambling addict, and I have to say, I don't like her burst skill. But then again, I'm a gooner, okay? I'm here only for one thing. She has a nice ass, okay? Clearly there's assets in there. Hidden because ShiftUp, you know, Diesel is a sweet girl, they don't want to be showing that, it's fine. I don't like her burst at all, I think it's pretty bad. Again, it's on par with the character that they're doing for this version, with not knowing how to sing, etc. It's nice, but I wouldn't use 4 copies for this at all. It's a waste of fucking tickets and resources. Again, I'm a gooner, so ignore my comments on this, alright? That's it, let's jump directly into the kit itself. This is a B3 attacker rocket launcher fire character. I'm going to assume Breathe is going to be the one that's going to be a little bit better and the one that most people probably should be pulling for as a support for raids. When it comes to Breathe, I was checking versus Mihara and other DPSs. Her kit is a little bit weird. The normal stuff, 6 bullets, 2 seconds load time, 61.3. That's the basics, the basic for almost any rocket launcher. There are some exceptions, but the usual, that's usually the numbers they have. But her kit is weird on a bunch of different places. It looks like she's going to be doing decent damage, good damage on fire weak bosses, but that's it. It's nothing spectacular. So skill 1, a MIG test, a passive, right? We'll go here. Hopefully this is big enough for you guys, that you guys can see everything. Let me make it like this, maybe. Hopefully this is good enough. Okay, so skill 1 activates when enters full burst for the first time after you use your own burst skill, increases critical damage by 20% continuously. This cannot be dispelled. And then the second time, or the first time, right, if you don't burst with her, she's gonna be getting an extra 20%. These two have a name: intro for when you burst with her, highlight when a different B3 goes into full burst. So you can get up to 40% critical damage continuously that cannot be dispelled. But she doesn't have a single crit rate buff on her own kit. So you are dependent on characters like Mihara, you're dependent on any character that can be buffing critical rate will be pretty good with her, or any other type of offensive buff. But it's a little bit weird that they went 40% critical damage, when critical damage usually you either go with really big numbers or 40% might not be enough, even with sustained damage, but whatever. 40% and you get 2 different types of buffs, intro and highlight. Now, when you go into full burst, if you are on intro, so if you burst with her, she will be gaining 60% of sustained damage for 10 seconds. But if you do not burst with her, so a different B3, if you have the highlight status, she's going to be getting 235% sustained damage. Really good, right? So that's on top of the 40% critical damage, maybe 20% for the first time, then 40% on the second time. So a decent skill 1, nothing amazing, nothing that's out of the ordinary, but still great numbers. 235% sustained damage is already pretty good. Same for even the 60% is pretty good. The 40% crit damage is a little bit iffy, but whatever. Then we have skill 2, I'm gonna sing now. And this skill is the one that's a little bit weird, I will say personally. So activates when an ally or self destroys an enemy's part. Affects all allies except herself. Mute gains immunity to noise pollution continuously. You'll see later what noise pollution is. Basically, it's a debuff that you will be gaining every time you actually burst with her. In order to avoid this, you need to gain one of these stacks, but it's not really important. Also, when an ally or herself destroys an enemy part, she will be gaining sustained damage increase by 68% for 15 seconds. The closest comparison to this is going to be Here, one of our first sustained damage characters, it was Sakura. She has exactly the same thing. Activates when an ally or self destroys enemy's part, affecting herself, but this is a 4% for 30 seconds. This is half the time, 15 seconds, but it's 68%. Quite a notable difference in contrast to Summer Sakura. This is level 7. Even if I went to level 10, it's not going to be that much of a difference per se. Then activates when attacking with full charge while you are not in full burst. It's also going to be gaining 318% of sustained damage for 3 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So you can continuously stack this up and sustain it as long as you are shooting and not in full burst. So this is not that good. Nowadays, rotations are really fast. Nowadays, you are going to be out of full burst for 2-3 seconds. And it obviously depends on your team, but for the most part, you are in and out constantly of full burst. So this part of the kit is a little bit iffy. If it was always just with full charge, it would be fantastic. But considering it's only outside full burst, you cannot really take full advantage of this. And then the last part of this skill 2, activates when entering full burst, affects the stage target, so elite enemies and the bosses only, dealing 63% of final attack as sustained damage every 1 second for 9 seconds. The reason it's 9 seconds, if you guys remember other sustained damage characters like Mihara and other units, there was a book that I think it was Sky and his friends that they discovered, where the tick rate for sustain was not really 10 times in 10 seconds, it was actually 11 times. So now, most likely because of this, they are reducing these things to 9 seconds, so it does tick actually 10 times. They could have fixed the issue with the ticks instead. I assume they couldn't, so that's what they're doing. Shift up code through this is like my website, bro. And then we go into the burst skill, la la la. 40 seconds, B3 the usual, affecting all enemies, damage taken increased by 25% for 10 seconds. This is really good. Overall, this means she already can see a blaze on fire rates. We'll see on what type of team, but she can see usage just because of the damage taken. It's a really powerful debuff when you are bursting. 10 seconds as well. And then she also deals sustained damage, final attack every 1 second for 9 seconds once again. And then after that, if the enemy is the stage target, she's going to be dealing an extra 181% of final attack as sustained for 9 seconds. And then here is the debuff we were talking previously. So she's going to be doing to all allies except herself. If she's in highlight status, the moment you go into full burst without bursting with her, she's going to be getting highlight. So this will happen every single time afterwards consistently. And you will be getting noise pollution, which decreases hit rate by 100% for 1 second. And in order to avoid this, you just need to get one of the mute stacks on skill 2 every time you or an ally destroys a part. If the boss does not have parts, then everyone will be eating this hit rate debuff. Now, hit rate debuff of 100% for 1 second usually is not going to be a big deal. Usually, because it's only 1 second, but still it might be leading to some damage reduction. We'll be seeing tomorrow when she drops and comparing numbers, obviously. And then if you are in highlight status, once again, every single time will happen, you're going to be reducing the amount of stacks for a mute you have by 1. So that's the way they have of basically, okay, you need to keep bursting with her in order to gain the stacks and then remove them. So her kit is a little bit weird because the percentages for sustain are really good, but she doesn't have any other buffs she can take advantage of. So no crit rate on her own kit. If you pair her with buffers that have sustained damage, is kind of worthless because she has already so much sustained damage that she's going to be taking advantage more from attack and attack damage. Attack, in fact, is going to be really good for her. I think Bolemace in Discord earlier was saying to pair her with Ala1 or characters like that. Any character that can give her attack or attack damage is going to be huge because she already gets all of the sustain she needs on her own. Now, would I be pulling for her? Only if you care for raids. If you do not care for raids, there is barely any reasons to be pulling nowadays in Nike for almost any character outside of Anniversary, Pilgrims that they release, and limited characters, like is the case with Diesel. So if you care about your Pokédex being full, then of course go and actually pull for one copy. We do not know when these characters will be rerun, so if you care about that, get a copy. I wouldn't pull for more than a copy, even she has a lot of final attack on her kit on both skill 2 and her burst, both of these parts, but I wouldn't go for more than a copy. It feels like a waste, even more so with how many characters we're getting nowadays. Once again, Nika has become a game of a copy. Enjoy the story, enjoy the content they're providing, and that's about it. No reason to be pulling for dupes outside the 160 wall. That's it, enough ranting. It's gonna be for this video, alright? I'll make the brief video either if they post now in a little bit or tomorrow when I wake up. I'll see what I do because so far it's not here yet. So, enough ranting. Once again, links in the description if you wanna come by, say hello on the stream. And as usual, good luck with your pool, the I'll see you in the next one.